Welcome back to another Kray video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any videos. And for people really interested in the Krays, check out our private Facebook group, Krays Crime Lords of London. A direct link for the group is in the YouTube description section. We're a friendly and moderated group which has been running since January 2018. Come and give us a try sometime.
Welcome back. We continue my story of my time with the Krays. They were crazy days. My name is Albert Donoghue. I was chief growler and rent collector for Ronnie and Reggie right up to 1968, when we were all arrested by Nipper Reid and his Scotland Yard team. In the previous episode, we had been talking about the new legal gaming laws introduced into Britain and the lucrative one-armed bandit machine rental business that quickly began operating. The twins preferred to sell the machines and then frighten the new owners into making payoffs. They couldn't see that doing it legitimately would earn you far more money than using criminal methods, and without any risk. They weren't capable of seeing that all we needed was a team of straight machine engineers to make this business a lasting success. They should have got hold of at least a half-straight person and said, "Right, we're going to put you in charge of the machines. You'll be given so much a week, you'll be responsible for organizing a couple of mechanics, we'll get you a van and some tools, you'll collect the takings and return them to us, and we don't want any messing about." Suitably frighten him so he knows where he stands, then just leave it to him. If there's any trouble, any publican or club owner who says he doesn't want the machines anymore, then our man is to come straight back and report to head office. Now, the diplomats of the firm should go and have a quiet word with the client and convince him how good a deal he's getting, without any express threats or violence. All that's left unsaid, though it is implied because people still know it's the Kray firm they're trading with. This is the ideal criminal enterprise, a crooked business run straight. We could have done the same with minicabs. We could have smothered the East End with cab companies, but the twins couldn't cope with that idea because it meant running a business, as opposed to going in and demanding money off someone else's business. They had no way of grasping the difference. They had no concentration either. At one point, they were so impressed with the way the mafia had taken over the wealthy Teamsters Union in America that they thought of getting hold of the dockers over here. They got talking to a convener in the docks who, they thought, could act as their Jimmy Hoffa-type front. That idea fell apart, so they switched to the other side, scheming how to operate a gang of strikebreakers against the Transport and General Workers Union, whose members always seemed to be walking out and bringing the Port of London to a standstill. It was all talk. Nothing came of it because this kind of thing needs brains, strategy and application to pull it off either way, and the twins had none of these. They didn't even have the patience to run what was then the easiest rip-off fraud of all, the long firm. In a long firm, all you do is set yourself up as a company in some rented premises, a suite of offices or a warehouse. You get a front man with no criminal record to speak of, but with a plausible, educated manner. On your instructions, he sets up a few bank accounts and acquires bogus credit references, preferably from other companies that you have set up specially to write them. Now your man starts ordering lots of gear that you know you can flog off quick at knockdown prices. Drink, cigarettes, electrical goods, stuff like that, which everybody wants. You settle the first few invoices on the dot until you've established yourselves as good, solid customers. Now you get extended credit, and the manufacturers and wholesalers are bursting to supply you with more and more goods worth many thousands of pounds. Then suddenly, after 3 months or so, you shift everything out of all your traceable premises within a day, selling the gear off as fast as you can. When the suppliers suss you've disappeared without paying them, it's too late. If the police or trade officials bother to investigate, it will be months later and they won't find any of the goods. The only person they may arrest, if he's still in this country, will be that plausible frontman. But he's known all along what he was there for, and you've paid him handsomely in cash, which he'll have stashed away in some secret account abroad. So usually, he'll plead guilty, take all the blame, and do a year in an open prison without bitterness. And as he knows you've got a lot of guerrillas on your firm and he's concerned for his wife and kids, he'll keep stum. I have never run a long firm, and I don't like the idea of using frontmen as fall guys. But there's no doubt that in those days, long firms were a very easy way to make a fortune. Through Leslie Payne, the twins were behind a number of long firms and made quite a lot of money from them. But even in these safe bust-out jobs, they didn't have the patience to let them run long enough. They'd wait only until a fair sum had been run up, then they'd grab it. Once again, their greed was self-defeating. As the Krays were considered to be at the pinnacle of organised crime in Britain, it's a pity they couldn't organise. They certainly couldn't delegate responsibility when it came to serious financial matters. I don't think they trusted anybody enough to let them get on with it. They didn't like to see other people getting rich. They didn't see that money could make more money for everyone. They thought of it as a one-off commodity. You nipped it off other folk, then you spent it. You didn't invest it, you blew it. If they retired, we could diversify. We could get into all sorts of fresh business. We wouldn't have Ronnie and Reggie walking into pubs and frightening the shit out of everybody. We could talk to folk who we couldn't talk to in front of them. They'd always chip in. What are you talking to that slag for? When we were on the verge of getting hold of real money through quality people. On the other hand, if they disappeared to Suffolk, we could step forward as reasonably respectable types. We'd still be Ronnie and Reggie's men, but we'd cut out all their silly, unpredictable violence. I'm sure Charlie Kray felt the same way. Their shenanigans didn't help him in his efforts to cultivate legitimate people. So all of us were waiting for them to go, but they didn't. They clung on. This was self-defeating, because the longer they clung on, the more jealous they became of firms ruling other parts of London, who were making fortunes out of a wide range of enterprises. The twins became obsessed by the versatility of the Richardsons in southeast London. Led by Charlie Richardson and his brother Eddie, this gang were into everything because they were a well-organised business team. We knew a lot about them because another South London boss, Freddie Foreman, was a long-time friend of the twins, and his firm had a spy in their crowd. This source was telling us how the Richardsons were getting £1,000 a week from just one bit of business, the London airport car parks. Charlie Richardson also had his scrapyards, his long firms, his South African stuff, plus all his regular protection rackets on the other side of the water. The idea that Charlie Richardson was becoming stinking rich drove Ronnie into blind jealousy. Blind because he should have seen we should copy the Richardsons. But no. Just because he couldn't match them, all he wanted to do was smash them and take over their empire. He believed that if the firm didn't soon crush the Richardsons, they would quickly crush the firm. For once, Ronnie may have been right. They were certainly trying to get into the West End, which the twins felt was mainly their territory. Far worse, they were invading the East End as well. They were getting money out of a local minicab firm, and one of their outfit, Brian Mottram, had a long-firm fraud running in Hackney Road, so we began to feel they were nicking all the sweets out of the East End. They'd got as far east as Southend, where we traced another Richardson long firm involving Billy Staton. Once we went to look for him there, but we couldn't find out where he was living. Someone on the firm found his girlfriend and tried to get to him that way, but nothing happened. So Ronnie was feeling powerless while his arch-enemies were popping up all over our own manor. To try to cool things, there was a meeting, not a boardroom meeting, more like a gangland summit, between Freddie Foreman's firm from inner South London, the Nashes, North London, the Twins, East London, and the Richardsons, South East London. The idea was that they were getting together to cut London up and to make sure they didn't interfere with each other's business. But the Richardsons were already getting too much money. What they said amounted to, "Piss off. We don't need you." And this upset the Twins. Afterwards, Ronnie said, "The flash bastards." We spoke to them, but they didn't want to know. He had to tell us this much because the Twins were now telling us to get ready to go to war. And so a war was declared. The firm had a meet at Valence Road. There were the three Krays, of course, then me, Connie Whitehead, Scotch Jack Dixon, and Ian Barry, and a few others. And all of a sudden we were told we were officially at war with the Richardsons because of a big row over their man Billy Staton's operations on our turf. Not just the Long firm in Southend, but some club he was running with Ginger Dennis, who wasn't strictly on the Richardson firm, but was connected to it. We were told that both Staton and Dennis were going to go. They were on the Twins list and had to die, but they were only on the fringes. A lot of other people were going to go too. The Twins cut a list up. We were each given the name of a member of the Richardson firm, so that when it really came off, our job was to take this one particular person out, to kill him. So me and Connie Whitehead were given Brian Mottram, one of the Richardsons' long-firm men. Take Mottram out was the command. Once we'd done him, we would probably be given another one. Scotch Jack and Ian Barry were given Frankie Fraser. Ronnie Kray and Nobby Clark were going to have Charles Richardson, though. If it had actually come to it, Ronnie would have wanted to do Fraser too. Reggie was going to have Eddie Richardson. George Cornell was also mentioned, but he wasn't top of the list. We were also told where our various targets lived, what pubs and clubs they used, if they had a girlfriend, what place of business they used. In Mottram's case, we were given the address of his bolt hole in Hackney. Most important of all, we were each given access to a gun. This was true for every pair on the firm. All we had to do now was wait for the off, the order to move into action. The scenario would have gone something like this. As soon as Ronnie went into one of his depressions or something upset him, he would have said, "That's it. Go." Now it would have been make or break. We either go and do the guy, or we take off and go somewhere else. Split from the East End, disappear, just get the hell out of the area. You either do it or you don't, and then you go from there. What would have happened at that point, you can only guess at. I imagine the police may have known about the whole business all the time. They probably knew what was occurring. But can't you imagine a couple of old superintendents sitting there saying, "Why don't we let them do it? They can blow each other away." That would have saved the police and the public a lot of trouble and money. There was one serious difficulty. None of us knew the faces. Most of us had no idea what our target looked like. We were going to have to assassinate people we weren't even able to recognize. Sure, we knew what Frankie Fraser looked like. He was the main man on their firm, their torpedo. He wasn't on the business side. That was Charlie Richardson's area. But if you wanted to speak to them, you spoke to Fraser first. He's only a little guy, about 5'7", but he had the guts to come right into our territory to talk with the Twins. The three of them would go into a huddle and talk business, but nothing came of it because the Twins never announced a truce with the Richardsons, and we certainly never joined forces. Whenever Fraser came over, Backup muscle wasn't far away. This got our nerves jangling because we never knew if the war itself was just going to start. Once Fraser came to the Black Lion and was talking to Reggie on his own. Then one of our firm came in and whispered, "There's a motor parked up the road, and they're sitting in it four-handed." Naturally, we assumed this was Fraser's crowd, so if anything had happened in that pub, or if he hadn't come out by a certain time, these guys would have come in. Later, we were told that they had all been tooled up with shooters. This made us jumpy. As we had all their names and addresses, we assumed they had the same on us. As we had a spy in their camp, it was possible they had a spy in ours. This was one reason why the twins were always worrying about who they could trust among us. When they suspected someone, they'd feed him misinformation to see what would happen with it. Once Reggie came to me and said, "I've been told to look out for a guy called Barry." So I said, "Well, my name's Barry," because to fox the police, I wasn't generally using the name Donoghue. "It's not you," he said, which meant they had already done some checking. So I said, "Well, it can't be Ian Barry, surely, or I don't know." And that was the last of it. Up in the West End, we also used to see a lot more of Fraser, along with Charlie and Eddie Richardson at various clubs, like the Astor, the Pigalle or the Society. We'd bump into them sitting with the likes of Jimmy Moody, who was another name on the list. The West End was neutral territory. You'd measure each other up and make sure nothing was going on. But if there was going to be war, we wouldn't fight it out in a locale where 100 uniformed coppers and the entire West End Central CID would be on us in no time. Meantime, Connie Whitehead and I still had no idea what Mottram looked like, though we did get some help. I went to see Freddie Foreman at his pub in the borough, and he gave me a photo of a football team, the Soho Rangers. This was basically the Richardson mob in shorts, including Eddie Richardson, Fraser and Billy Staton, with Stanley Baker, the film star, in support. The photo was useful for the rest of our firm, but no use to me because Brian Mottram wasn't in the team. I can't say my heart was in this assignment. This Mottram that we were assigned to kill wasn't a man of violence. He was just involved in the long firms. Also, I had no personal animosity towards the Richardsons. As long as they stayed away from me, I stayed away from them. I wasn't at all sure then, and I still can't say now, whether I would have done this killing or deserted the firm and risked facing a firing squad. I just hoped something would happen to stop the war starting, as we had no idea where it might end. We all knew these South London guys were no pushovers. They were thugs just like us, though when it came to violence, even nastier. We already had a good idea of the tortures used by Fraser and the Richardsons. Gruesome stories would dribble through. There was Harry Boot Cashman, the guy who had the silver spinner spieler over Stoke Newington, where I worked for a while. After I'd talked that Greek guy with the gun out of the spinner, Boot told me, "I like the way you did that. I've met all these so-called gunmen. I'm sick of them, especially that other mob over the water. They done me." He went on to explain that somehow he had upset them, so he was called into their scrapyard in Peckham. It was common practice to get a general beating, have your toes broken or your teeth pulled, but he had the real treatment from them. He told me how they had charged him up with the electric generator. They wired victims up to this generator and gave them a couple of turns. They called this the crank-up. So in revenge, Boot sat in the Astor Club up the West End every night for 2 weeks, with a gun in his pocket waiting for them to come in. Only they didn't show. Not that I think they would have been afraid to show. They just had business elsewhere. After that, Boot gave up. He said they crippled some people, mentally as well as physically. When a person's had such a going over, with all the jeering and laughing that goes on while he screams. He gets done in the head. Psychologically, he's wasted. I can't think of anyone, other than Boot Cashman, who ever went on a vengeance trail. The guy had guts. Well, that's it for another one, guys. Hope you are enjoying them, and I'll see you next time in the next one.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please join our Facebook group. It's called Krays Crime Lords of London. We're a friendly moderated group with over 1,000 Kray and other celebrated gangster videos available for view. There's also thousands of images in the photos sections. The link for the group is in the YouTube description section. I hope we see you there soon.
Leave a like and subscribe.